give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
Be part of the solution to make your world a better place. Don't litter. Care for your community by disposing waste properly. Refresh Sri Lanka for a civic-minded society. In association with AICPA and CIMA and 99X. LMD, the voice of business.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. Tonight on the forum, we're zooming in on the importance of strengthening Sri Lanka's own products and creating local value-added products. And with us, we have the founder of Embark, Otara Foundation, and who we are, Otara Gunewardene. It's very nice to have you on the show, Otara.
Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
To start off our conversation, Sri Lanka is at a juncture where we really need to urgently get out of the crisis that we're in, and organic growth in terms of creating and strengthening our own products is essential. What is your take on this?
I'm someone who has been very passionate about Sri Lankan products and creating brands and uplifting the products that we make here, and also the ranges that we make here. And that was something I used to really focus on a lot and continue to focus on even after I left Adele. For me, it was very important that there's a strong balance between our own product and what we import. So obviously, when I first started, there was less imports, and there was a greater commitment to buy from here, and a need to buy from Sri Lanka and to develop things in Sri Lanka. But as the years continued, if I talk about what I did, was there was at least 60% of the product range from the ranges that I was selling was was always from Sri Lanka. And obviously, that contributes to new brands being developed here, to businesses expanding, to people, lots of people getting jobs. Even now I can think of at least a dozen as a low quantity of people who started by doing things themselves, and they had 2 people and 10 people, and eventually they had big factories of 40, 50, even 100 people, and also they created their own brands, which was mostly sold in my stores, but then also they created their own stores, own brands, expanded. So it really has a ripple effect, and I think for any country, it's really important that our local product is very strong, despite what we decide to import, as to always be fascinated by countries like Thailand and India, who eventually moved on to getting other brands and importing, but who made sure that their own production and their own products being sold in the country and being available was always very visible and very present in their marketplace. And usually people you can value them almost equally. It's not like one is, like the foreign ones are better than the local ones. So I think that's something that changed in Sri Lanka over the years. And it's not only to do with fashion and other product ranges, but also to do with our vegetables and our fruits, and, even something like as simple as a huge range of bananas and mangoes. Most of them are very hard to find now. whereas what we have in variety is so special and so good. Those are things that should be improved and strengthened, so that we also import less and focus more on our local production.
You spoke about balancing imports and local production. Sri Lanka, we have been enjoying an open economy since 1977. How easy or difficult do you think this balancing act is going to be from a consumption point of view and from a production point of view?
Well, I think it's always, a balancing act, but I think it's really important to not lose the focus on our own product ranges and our own development of our own products that are grown here and made here, and more than anything, that is valued in the marketplace. Once, the biggest issue is when people value the products made here less than what is being imported. That's when the really big shift happens. And of course, the more you open up, it becomes very price oriented. People import very cheap things, and there are the restrictions are limited to what can be brought in quality and standard sometimes, and so people tend to opt obviously to save money and buy things that are a lot cheaper. They want to buy more and buy it cheaper rather than paying a bit more and making the choice to buy something Sri Lankan and also very good. So there are a lot of things like that. I mean, that's just one example, but there are a lot of things like that which come into play when there's obviously a marketplace with many things available and different choices. So it's really important to make our products have a value and have, so that people find it very important, and it's in our hearts that we will choose things that are made here as top of mind rather than things that are imported. So I think that's something that a lot of countries have done, like to promote their products and to create that value in the marketplace and that demand in the marketplace, so that people have a choice of a range of things that are available, but it's valued equally, and people would like to buy equally. Currently, I think there's a global trend where people are where there is a much greater push to buy local, to support local, to support eco-conscious, eco-friendly, and things that are made that support the communities. There is a shift towards that, but I think we need a much greater shift towards that.
And talking about value, and for Sri Lanka to create value-added products, what are the challenges that you see from a producer's point of view, especially with all the adverse economic dynamics that we are facing these days?
I think it's really important that that the things we develop have a marketplace. Just because it's made here doesn't mean that it should be automatically something people buy. It does have to be be good, be if it's in clothing, be stylish, have the right all the right things that go along with it. That makes people who buy fashion and clothing want to buy it. Of course, good quality as well, with the right price. All that is important. So for the first thing, I think the product, the brand has to be of a standing that is of value, and that would be that the customer would like in the local marketplace, and ideally a brand that will also transcend to international marketplaces as well. There are a few who have done it fairly successfully, some who have done it extremely successfully, but I think it's still very small. I think there's a much bigger opportunity that's available for that, and I think that's something that we can focus on. Of course, that's the most thing, getting support from reaching markets outside, from reaching buyers outside, from to reach people who would be interested and focus and come in and focus on products that we have. All those can be, of course, supported by the governments and certain departments that we have, which can place a lot more emphasis on that. I was, for example, I was consul of Sweden for a while, and I really saw the focus that they put. All their embassies and all the they have a separate department that focuses on pushing their products out globally. So it's a lot of focus and effort that goes into that, and obviously it works. So I think that part, there's always you can support with the right structure in those areas. I think individually as well, if you have the product and the brand right, you can achieve a lot as well.
I think you touched a little bit on my next question, but talking about the stakeholders that are involved in this whole production process, especially when we're talking about promoting and strengthening our own produce, who would you highlight as the main stakeholders, and do all of these stakeholders play their part right?
Oh yeah, I think I spoke about it before. Yeah, so I think the most important is that you have the right product and the right brand. Like, I mean, I do see a lot of people starting something, then saying, we're going to go global, and it's quite a challenge. It's not an easy task at all, because there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked to be able to succeed in an international market. But it's not impossible. And support from government entities like EEB and other organizations can be very, very helpful and supportive if there's a very strong structure in place. There are a lot of people who are quite small who do have good products, good ranges, but they don't have a platform, they don't have the ability to get a bigger reach, or to be able to afford going international or approaching markets internationally, because even though there are exhibitions and things internationally, it all costs quite a bit. I do know they support in some form to a certain extent. But when my last project was with Huvia.lk, it was the online platform that supported small businesses, and I had about 500 small businesses listed on the platform, and they were like really good products and really nice ranges, and people who are very keen to be able to expand and do more. But the support they get is very little, so they're kind of on their own, trying to earn their money to live, and then trying to run this business, and it becomes quite a challenge when they don't have the support structure. So like I said earlier, I think it's very important for governments for the government to have such structures, especially for the I think there's a lot of things in place for the big manufacturers and the big manufacturing industries that we have, but there is a gap for the for the middle and the smaller people who would like to to reach bigger markets. Actually, it's even locally they have a challenge to reach bigger markets, and that's what I was trying to do. The platform was to give them a bigger reach, so I think there are a lot of things that can be put in place to improve that.
It's time to take a short break. When we return, we'll resume our conversation on the importance of strengthening Sri Lanka's own products.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
You're mobile, and so are we.
Gets me going.
Grab the Lite 87 app at the Apple App Store or Google Play now.
87.8 and 87.6 island-wide. Lite 87.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking to Otara Gunewardene on the importance of strengthening Sri Lanka's own products and creating local value-added products. Talking of supporting entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship is going to be one of those drivers for our economy. And we always say that entrepreneurship also results in community upliftment. What are the community segments that you think should really be uplifted through entrepreneurship, and where is the potential really at?
So I think there's a lot of, there is a lot of talent, a lot of people more keen now to do businesses, to be entrepreneurs. There's a lot more interest than from the time I began to today. I mean, I can see a big change. I saw the change happening over the years as well. And now it's even more, there are a lot more young people who have their own businesses, who are interested in it, both men and women, male and female. So I think there's definitely a lot more potential, and there is a lot of good things that are being made here, done here, concepts that are being made, that are happening here, which are new and innovative. So there is definitely an improvement in that area, and I think there is a lot of opportunity for that to grow. And of course, that then helps, that trickles down to the community, because they need people to support those businesses, support those entrepreneurs, and all that really helps the upliftment of communities and and people. Like even when I travel today, or I know people who started very small in my business and who are now have their own very large business, or sometimes when I travel, I even meet them in in very senior positions in the airport in Doha and Dubai, and so it's very good to see, and it really does help to strengthen communities and give the money obviously flows back into the community, which then obviously helps families, and the whole infrastructure changes.
That's really very encouraging. Women empowerment is a top priority item in Sri Lanka's agenda, because we say that empowering a woman is to empower a community. And we want to get your views, Otara, on this year's International Women's Development Agency's Declaration for Women's Day. They said, and I quote, "We celebrate all women in all their diversities. We embrace their facets and intersections of faith, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual identity, and disability." What is your take on this declaration, especially in terms of empowering women to be entrepreneurs?
So, I think we have very, very talented women in Sri Lanka, a lot of in different fields, and even there I see a big change in how they've contributed to the economy, and how they want to do more with their lives, and I think it's something that has definitely changed over the years. I do get a lot of people contacting me to ask for guidance and support, and so I know it is something that's much more top of mind than it used to be. And I think there's a lot more room for women to take over different areas, and I think they can contribute much more to strengthen everything, communities and everything that businesses, communities, and all areas, and which also helps to strengthen, empower to empower themselves, and also to the country will get a lot stronger. So I think there's a lot more opportunity on that side. And I think a lot of the, more, when I started, there was, I just started. I didn't really think about, me being a woman in business. So that it really was not on my mind. I just wanted to do, I had this idea, I love what I did, and I wanted to grow my business. It was much later that then these questions started coming about what it's like to be a woman, and I didn't think twice about people I had to meet, going for meetings, traveling. It really didn't, it was something that was not a day-to-day thing in my mind. So as much as I see a lot of good with a lot of these programs and this the huge focus on women empowerment and issues with it. And, there is a lot out there. It does strengthen some, but it also does bring in this mindset of we're not good enough to many, and greater fear than actually strength. And I've actually seen that because I've had quite a few people contact me to, actually scared, wondering how they're going to go out into this world as a woman because of all these things that they've heard. So I think there's some balance there, and I think it's really important that people it's within us, right? The power and the empowerment is first step. It's within us, and we need to know that what we're capable of, and all the different things around us that we can use and support and be a part of, and then how we take that into our own lives. So yeah, I look forward to seeing much more women in the participating in the benefit many things that are happening in Sri Lanka, and definitely contributing more towards the economy.
Thanks, Otara. My next question to you, Otara, is on an area that is very dear to LMD's heart. As you know, we launched our Refresh Sri Lanka campaign to encourage a mindset change to create a more civic-minded society. What would your focus areas be to ensure that civic-mindedness is not ignored when we are empowering Sri Lanka to grow organically by strengthening and creating our own products?
Well, that I think the main thing to understand is that we are not separate from each other. We may all have different interests, different things we do, but we are a collective, and we are a collective that impacts Sri Lanka, both positively and negatively. And everything that happens around us is because of the collective thought, the collective action, and the way we are. So really, we all that, and how we can change that is by obviously changing, each one of us changing ourselves, and then changing the collective. If we don't like what's happening around us today, we need to understand that it's all of us as a collective. It's not. It's and contributing individually to make that happen that's why it's there. So I think that's why it's important for each one of us to do our bit to contribute to moving us to a better place where there's greater harmony in all areas for the greater good of all, not just some. And we can't ignore the fact that that there's a greater portion of Sri Lanka where there is a lot of struggles. There's another portion that enjoys a different form of life. But we're all a part of all of it, and we can't isolate ourselves from each one of those segments of Sri Lanka. And I think it's really important that so even where it's to do with with environment, with animal welfare, with people issues, with all that, I think it's something it's of great. It should be of concern to all of us. Because it's because we are all one, and it's all one country, one society, and one collective. So what happens to all of us is the effect of that collective. So we can change ourselves, we can can do our best to encourage people to do more, to improve the environment, to improve how we are with many areas, how we treat animals, how we dispose of our garbage, how we take care of our environment, our forests. So I think I do believe it's we are all responsible to make a better Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Otara. We're almost at the end of our conversation, but before we let you go, any closing thoughts you would like to share with our audience, especially focusing on entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, I cannot speak from my journey. I think it's the most exciting and the best thing I've ever done. As you know, I started very, very small. I didn't have a head for business or fashion even. I was a new biologist who decided to start the business. So it was a very exciting journey for me, and It was wonderful to learn everything that I didn't know, and also to to use all those tools in my business to grow it. So it's a very exciting journey, and it's both for you personally, and it also helps the community, the country, the economy. So it's definitely a path that I would recommend to anyone who even has a slight idea or a slight dream for that. And all that can happen anyways if you start small and don't start off really big. Even if you want to change it, and you've had the experience and you can move on, but usually that doesn't happen because you kind of get addicted to it. So yes, I mean, I think it's something that Sri Lanka also needs is more entrepreneurs and more brands, more products that are Sri Lankan, that can be visible locally and globally. And services as well, just products, but not just products you make. But so yeah, it's definitely a path that I would recommend and encourage more people to be a part of.
Thank you. We've been talking to the founder of Embark, the Otara Foundation, and who we are, Otara Gunewardene. Otara, it was very nice having you on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And to all our viewers, thank you so much for joining in. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching and stay safe.